Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
Oh, hey, we've got one!
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Moon Base 13. We need your help. Mayday! Show trap initiated.
You speak to I, King of Forrester, commander of the Moon 13 Research Station. I am reopening my family's most legendary experiment, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Movie in the hole. You are not my real father, mister.
I like the way they ended this series with Mike, seasons with Mike, with back watching the TV in the basement. It kind of puts you like, it's like what you're doing, what you've been doing all these years. You've been watching this on TV and your couch in the basement.
How they ended it with the Italian, spy movie, which was already pretty popular, Danger Diabolic, was pretty good. But to have them just crash was also just a wise way to end the show.
Yeah, and then survive. I think weren't they toying with the idea of them actually die in the crash? I
don't know about that, but
they might have thought of that for a minute and said
they
no.
did hint that they would reunite at Joel's, who's now, ever since he escaped, is now working at like a restaurant which actually exists. And
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the world stage, prepare to witness the most mind-bending act of movie riffing ever attempted.
I present to you The Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet?
6 terrible movies ripped one after the other.
Can Jonah Heston, his robot jerks, and you at home survive 6 horrible movies back to back to back to back?
Tough back?
We can't riff 6 movies in a row. Our brains will melt. Our souls will implode.
And now to binge the unbingeable binge.
Punch something.
Force them the movie.
Have mercy.
Oh, kill me!
I will kill
Oh, God! Wow! That's it. I'm out of here, man. No.
Adorable.
At this point, I'm just stress eating.
Oh, crap.
They trained for this?
God have mercy on our metal souls.
If I don't make it, avenge me!
Yes! Here we go!
We should take a moment to pour out a little for those who didn't make it. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Let
okay.
it flow.
Okay.
We'll tell you when.
and so when they launched Jonah's era, I wasn't surprised that, I was like, okay, and they're still in space somehow, somewhere.
Yeah,
Whatever,
how do you explain the robots unless you made more up there? There always had extra robots up on that satellite, but then
You're
again,
right.
the satellite crashed too, so.
Mm-hmm.
Deep Third. It's just a show. We should really just relax.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to
And you're so
Jonah.
distracted by all the other stuff too, where it's like they could have just grabbed him, put him back.
Yeah. Jonah
King
got
probably located him.
Jonah got more inventive again with they had bigger sets and whole different. Aren't they they're on the dark side of the moon and
Yeah, they make a lot of Pink Floyd references.
yeah. they're not in space anymore. Are they stuck on the moon? I can't remember. Are they stuck on the moon in the Jonah years?
Partially, like
Or are King and Max on the moon?
They're on the moon, and he's on the satellite.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, of course,
13 the moon, and that's why they got the band that plays and the interactive TV.
And they had a lot of celebrity cameos in the season 11.
It does make you wonder. I mean, they kind of played with it, in Joel era, but it is kind of wild how in Jonah's era, they essentially just, for lack of a better term, just they would bring up that Joel is clearly reading fan mail, and they had still kind of the fan mail during Mike era, but not much. But they still had the PO box pop up on screen at one interval, and it was wild to hear how basically you kind of still get the sense that they're broadcasting this over a TV channel, and somehow the FCC has not closed it down or figured out where the signal's coming from. So, kind of a fun feel to that.
Yeah, it's like back in the 60s even, I think there was underground TV that you could like almost like pirate radio, that in certain parts of the country you could watch these underground, or you got your local cable channels too. People would do their own talk shows and that stuff, and The Simpsons has had an episode where Homer did one of those. It's that kind of outlaw TV type of thing, which I think has been along in some form or another for a long time. Yeah,
it really has. Nowadays, the closest you probably get is radio.
Yeah, or podcasts.
Yeah, there you go.
So Jonah kicks off with Reptilicus, which, and of course we haven't talked much about the stingers. That has one of that was a fun stinger, and he puts his hand in the octopus thing or gets a shot. Were you
heavily anticipating it when you got to Jonah era?
Yeah, I'm a Kickstarter backer, and
okay, perfect.
All of a sudden it occurred to me, there's going to be more Mystery Science Theater episodes, and like I said, way back when I first started watching it, I was loving season 1 episodes in the rerun seasons because I hadn't seen them yet.
It took me a while to get to it too. I was just so heavily busy with college, and yet I was hearing great things about it. But so as soon as it came out, it was one of those. It's like I saw some people just kind of saying this is my favorite season ever. Critics reviewed it pretty well, and then I saw some guys who didn't care for it. And I'll just put this out of the way. I don't understand the complaint about it, their jokes going too fast or them talking over the other guys, because Joel did that, Mike did that. I don't see why that's a problem here.
It did take me a little getting used to that, but don't you realize too, if something's popular, if you don't like it, then people respect you more. if you're just something that's popular, people, he's smarter than us,
again, right, people get it.
I mean, you can still criticize stuff, but I think people over criticize, especially with social media, and and especially why do you want to go after something that has like Facebook pages about it and stuff? And I always get a kick out of people that go in there, I really didn't like this movie. Well, they're not supposed to be good movies, after a while. It's what they do. It's like the Shakespeare thing. The play's the thing. It's what they do. You're not talking about the movie per se. You're doing I've called it comedy records with visuals. The show. It's all about the jokes and the riffs. The same thing.
You'd like to think, but there's still just people don't get it. So.
Yeah. MTV. Some people just don't get it. I remember those. It's going way back. It's the same kind of thing.
Go. There's a callback.
And it's it's still different. I don't like American Idol, but I respect the fact that people love it. It's that kind of thing. Not everyone's gonna like everything. If we were all like the same things, it would be we'd all be robots.
We would totally be robots. And
so anyway, Cry Wilderness, bang. Bang, bang.
That was a wild one because it could have been good, and it's just kind of they kind of get back to movies that are blurring the line between PG and R, where it's just like this guy is literally about to strangle this beast, and it's just
there's some animal cruelty in that.
Yeah, it's just so wild, but it's also just the riffs on this. They really get going. This was like their third episode. The first one was kind of an intro, and the riffs kind of Reptilicus or whatever.
That's the second, and then Time Travelers was third, but I'm looking at the list here.
Yeah, my bad.
Don't mean to correct you, but
yeah, the first two they did kind of took a while to get used to, and then Cry Wilderness. I guess this was my bad. So this
a lot of people like that one. I liked it a lot. I love the fact that half the movie takes place in an abandoned zoo for the set. It's so obvious it's an old zoo somewhere that they just took over and used.
I didn't even think about that. I'm so distracted by what's going on screen because I'm like, okay, and this is happening.
Yeah. Time Travelers was the next one. That was fun.
Yeah, and that you want to call back to Empire Pictures, which produced Laser Blast.
Oh, that okay.
Full Moon, and I love how they're just looking at the opening credits. It's like, why would you expect anything good by Charles Band?
Well, that movie does predict the big keyboard scene in Close Encounters. There's an electronic keyboard with lights in that movie too. That's
pretty unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah, she's playing, and then you had. Really, the first time they did a disaster movie, other than unless you count Godzilla and Gamera, would be Avalanche.
Avalanche was a lot of fun because once again, just Roger Corman just trying to steal the Irwin Allen.
Oh, that was
money.
Corman. I didn't realize it was Corman.
Yeah, and you're just so wondering what is going on. Rock Hudson, all these other famous people slumming it, and no likable people. Robert Forster, they kind of could have referenced, but I guess not. They just were suffering from the movie so much. They're like, let's just move on.
Mia Farrow. There wasn't an alcoholic
Mia
aunt
Farrow's
or something.
in it.
The alcoholic aunt character was in there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get Beast of Hollow Mountain, which has one of my favorite sketches ever when it's just Jonah and the bots are in costume but not saying anything. What he's freaking Jonah out. What are you guys doing? Remember the they're like rotating around him. I love that scene.
Fun throwback to the costume sketches.
Yeah, that was really good. And you got Star Crash after that. Dana Gould worked on that.
And just another Star Wars knockoff, but I mean, I got to even give a shout out to Killer Fish. That was such a fun movie. Once again, can't decide.
Lee Majors,
yeah, can't. And they make fun of a guy who looks like Louis Anderson. They can't decide if it wants to be again a heist movie that really doesn't figure until much later, or a piranha type movie. And it just kind of does a bit of both. But the riffs are on fire, and they're having fun watching it, even though it's crazy. But what was the one they did with Peter Cushing where it's like the center of the earth or something like that? Just one of the many movies
At the Earth's Core.
That's the one. And I mean, that was fun too. There was that, and there's some dinosaurs in that, and then there's another dinosaur movie where it's just out in the dinosaur like gets killed by quicksand. Yangari,
Monster from the Deep, or
Land
That Time Forgot, maybe?
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.
It's like, remember, a dinosaur appears in like the very last minute, and you're like, well, that just happened.
Well, then they had back-to-back Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, and I can't remember. My name's in the credits on one of those as a Kickstarter backer. So they're both very wacky because, again, Roger Corman territory again, and this time it's David Carradine and his girlfriend just in a weird movie. Yeah, noticeable tone differences between the two. Yeah, somewhat. But Carnival Magic, I like that one a lot. It reminds me of being a kid in the 70s.
Oh, yeah, and at one point they even joke about how someone almost looks nude, and they're like, someone at one point was asking me, I'm like, are they actually nude? I'm like, no, it's just, that's the joke.
I think I remember joking about that on Facebook about, I saw Carnival Magic. I grew up in the 70s. I know how shirts work.
Yeah.
Everyone's like with an unkempt shirt. Their shirts are always unbuttoned, and there's a bunch of that in that movie. But the 70s, I love going to, went to Cedar Point when I was a kid, and so the carnival aspect was fun. But then they Don't they throw in a talking monkey or something, or a?
Yeah, and it's so funny how they're just making fun of how just every Save the Ape movie, and the riffs are on fire at this. I've had the fortune of listening to Hampton Yount's stand up. He's way more off color, but just so clever, funny. And Baron Vaughn, I was already a fan before I even got into his season of Mystery Science Theater, because I saw him on one of those Showtime specials where everyone talks for a minute. Yeah. And that was cool too, because just he wasn't reliant on cursing massively or just any other shtick. He's just a very clever, funny guy. And so I thought
those are the best. Yeah.
And he did a great job as Servo, because he's got a lot of the same, flamboyant wit. And so it was a big year for him, because he was already the adopted son on the other Netflix comedy show, Grace and Frankie, which stars Lily Tomlin.
Now he's not coming back though, is he? I think they got another Servo now. I can't remember.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, they're moving on to different ventures because it's been so long, but it has been kind of fun. It's really been fun to see a lot of these guys get more offers just as a result of being on those, on this show. And I didn't have a problem with their voices. I know one person complained about Vaughn's Servo voice. I had no problem with it.
Yeah.
They should probably get some Who's Line people. They could just.
That's because there was almost a decade of you're familiar with that voice, and then it's like, well, it's not like someone is singing for John Lennon on a Beatle record or something.
Well, and I mean, there's even days where I didn't care for Bill Corbett's voice, and it wasn't that I didn't like it. It's just it was more. And sometimes when I first getting used to Trace's version of Crow, there'd be some days where he kind of was a little snarky, and so it's like they all vary by the movie. So I mean,
yeah, they did another Christmas that almost wasn't. I remember that movie being out when I was a kid. I never saw it until then. I liked they did a little, and there was a complaint about this. They talk about it in the episode guide. Way back in season 1, they added sound effects to a movie once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
And they covered up a woman's voice singing, and she went mute. They were cheating a little bit, but they kind of do that with Loves of Hercules, where Hercules swats his hand and then Servo goes flying. Remember in Silhouette?
Yeah.
But it's really funny. I said no problem. Of course, now the purists are going to say, why is Servo flying now too? You would fly around too.
CGI was pretty good on this show, because it still kind of was done in a way where it was like a mix of sped up motion capture and I enjoyed the 2 other bots. They didn't get enough screen time. The green, drum player, the movie band, so to speak, the movie theater band.
And they changed Gypsy. I like it's a woman's voice now instead of
Yeah.
That hasn't aged well.
The gal and the gal who voiced her was also playing the cyborg, who's like a clone, Cynthia, who's like a clone of Pearl, which is funny. But I think overall, I mean, Felicia Day did one hell of a job as Kinga, and just having her be Dr. Forrester's daughter. It's fun. And
I've seen Patton Oswalt doing stand up twice. I was at the infamous, off topic a little bit.
Oh, get this! I had people who didn't want to watch this just because they could not stand Patton Oswalt. I'm like,
really?
He does well. First off, I'm a fan, but second off, I mean, he's so minor. I mean, you shouldn't deny yourself a fun movie riffing session,
Well, my wife and I were at the Grand Rapids show where the set fell on him. I don't know if you ever heard about that.
I had heard about it, so that's
in the middle of his set. I remember Peg going, "Is he okay?" It was scary, and he just played off of it. And then he played with the back, because it was at Fountain Street Church where I saw U2 play years ago, and he actually went back and did a little religious bit with the. It was a it's Fountain Street Church is a real liberal church. It's non-denominational and everything. But that was we were there for that, and then I saw him a couple years later at another venue in town. So anyway, I like Patton. Yeah, he's one of these smart, funny comedians, which are like Mystery Science Theater itself.
I always dug him, and
smart, funny show.
He was wild. I mean, I kept seeing him evolve, and I think that's what really appealed to me about him. And it's just even funnier. I mean, it made sense to me that he was playing, TV's Frank's son.
Yeah, son of TV's. I don't know. Oh, there's one other thing which I wondered about. I don't know if you ever watched Sherlock?
Yeah, and Elementary, and yeah, all these others.
Yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle, Holmes knockoffs.
Well, you remember they did the right.
They had a Monos episode, and so it was so wild. It's like network TV is still acknowledging MST3k years later, and it goes over everyone's heads. But I think, fortunately, in the day of the internet, at that point, I mean, YouTube was still pretty big with a lot of these cult shows, so it was kind of at this point, the home video rights have already changed. It used to be through Rhino Home Entertainment, which was like a division of Warner Brothers. Then they switched to Shout Factory, and it's like same deal. Anyone can riff or watch any of these movies through their company. You can buy them off rifftracks.com. There's still plenty of YouTube episodes. It's like they're never going to be taken down. They'll put an ad up on it without interfering. But I mean, it's kind of cool that, like you say, there's movie references everywhere now and about, and you're like, aha. And so now more people, I think, are getting it than they ever did.
Well, I always wondered when they did, remember at the end of season 11, Jonah gets eaten up by the dragon thing.
That was a fun parody of that whole thing, especially.
I thought, were they doing a takeoff on the Sherlock faking his death thing?
No telling.
He did the same thing. And then they got a lot of flack because nobody was happy. A lot of people weren't happy with the explanation. Did he really die this way or fake it that way? And in the show, they just brush it off. In Mystery Science Theater, he wants to tell the bots about it. Oh, we don't care, And I thought that was genius because let's just avoid all the flack of how he did it and just move on,
Yeah, at this point,
I thought that was brilliant, and I always wonder if they were doing a parody of the Reichenbach Fall, which goes back to the books, actually,
It's very possible because, I mean, they're very pop culture savvy guys. They're people who for years have read a bunch of literature. And, I mean, just like how, again, they made fun of all these other old sci-fi movies in the 70s and bikers. And with Mike, they made fun of just basically it's just always Planet of the Apes and Star Trek. You got the nanites, and with this,
I forgot about the nanites.
And I mean, just the planet destruction was a beneath the Planet of the Apes reference. But I mean, it's like, with this, it was kind of it's like at this point, Jonah is just a roommate, and they don't really pick on him. They just kind of just chime in every once in a while. But they don't. The whole idea is like, he's not replacing anybody. He's not replacing Joel or Mike. They just happen to be back in space with.
Well, then the running gag with Mike, or the first season of Sci-Fi, was he kept blowing up planets, and
there's still callbacks to every kind of saga. Like there's callbacks to Space Mutiny and blowing up planets. There's callback. I mean, the best callbacks were definitely having Jay Elvis come back as Earnhardt, and he's got both Frank and Forrester's ashes. They're dead, and
that's right. That's in season 12.
Yeah, and the guest stars were great. Jerry Seinfeld, Mark Hamill, Neil Patrick Harris playing characters from the movies and Escape Pods. But it got even better with.
Well, Neil Patrick Harris was in Comedy Central, did a documentary about the show, and he appears in that way
We've
back.
Known for years. He was a fan. He participated in a riff track, so it was like, it made sense to bring him back. I know Jack Black contributed to it, but he didn't have any episodes, which was a shame. But I mean, it also was interesting how they did have Pearl herself, Bobo, and Observer come back for like 2 episodes, and it's so wild how Kinga is just like, I'm gonna force Jonah to marry me. I don't care. And so that was kind of fun.
So
I thought that worked way better than as opposed to some skits where Mike comes down to help him out and is like, can he escape already?
Did they have Brain Guy come back too? Bill Corbett.
Remember he's in the
everybody but Mike.
They're still traveling around in their
in their van.
Well, and that's just
Chevy van.
Like Trace and Frank had already stated they didn't want to come back, so it was like, let's just do a funny thing where your characters die.
And season 12. Bad food, bad movie, Mac and Me.
Oh man. And yeah, before I get to that, yeah, I mean, Earnhardt had often, they had cited he had died, so that just pretty much changed it all up. Is like, no, he was dead to them. He didn't actually die. So.
Oh, that's right. Isn't in season 2's opener, there's a cup with, have you seen this person?
Yeah.
So referred to Earnhardt, and that was the end of that. They never referred to him again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
they left it up to your imagination. Yeah,
they totally did. And this is like all this time.
And it worked, so then he could come back. Yeah.
Pretty much all this time, just like Pearl and her gang, he's been just going around in space. Space car. So yeah, no, Mac and Me. Oh boy. So that is the final episode of the entire Jonah years I've seen. I never watched this in order. I've never watched any MST3k season in order, because how can you?
Oh, okay.
Unless
that's the last one you watch from that. Okay. Well, you can binge watch them.
I did binge watch them, and there were some where it's like, I'm not feeling like I'm in the mood for this kind of movie that night. Yeah, but most of them I did kind of watch in order, but there were some where it's like, I'm going to wait a while on this one.
Well, some people watched At the Earth's Core first, and hey, they killed the host off. Don't tell everybody that, for one thing, but yeah, there was a 2-week limit on posting about the episodes. I think on the Facebook page I follow, Deep 13 House of MST3k, and I even said something after the 2 weeks, and I got flagged. But yeah, that's all I did. But, so no, that's 2 weeks. Then they had Atlantic Rim might be the most mainstream movie they've ever done.
Yeah.
Other than maybe I Was a Teenage Werewolf,
This was some interesting picks. So I'm going to let you chime in on what are their upcoming movies for the next season 13. That's not out yet. I'm already digging who they picked as the host. I think everyone's warmed up to her because she's been at the live shows and on the online, social distancing show. And I think they're going to pretty much pick a lot of the same kinds of movies that they picked for Jonah years, because that's the kind of ones they're looking for. And like you say, I mean, Atlantic Rim was like the only one that as close to Riff Tracks, Sharknado level as they did, because, it's Asylum knockoff. So it's like, I think with this that they did a healthy mix of picking any kind of movie, because, Jonah Ray was already if you've seen any of his stand-up and everything, he was already a big Mystery Science Theater fan. And in the interviews, he talked about how essentially, he was, he loved stuff from all the eras. And I think they pretty much did a healthy mixture. I was like, okay, let's do a weird black and white movie. Then let's do a monster movie that would have aired on Comedy Central or Sci-Fi years. And now let's do a straight up, flabbergasting.
MST3k is the kind of show you have to be a big fan of the show to host it, because can you imagine just like some method actor or somebody coming in there trying to do, you got to like the show.
That's why I dug about how he even made fun of how we want to talk camp. He was very much like Dr. Who. He joked about how it's like, this is going to be where, everyone talks about, are you the, David Tennant, or are you the, Eccleston, or are you this or Matt Smith? And it's like, I'm pretty much just going to be the one who's like, well, he's not as, either way, he's not Joel or Mike.
Right. And that's good. You don't want to be a copycat either,
Yeah, but it was just clever.
Get your own personality in there, sure. Like I said, sing a couple words, Joel was the father figure, Mike was the college buddy, and Jonah's more of a stand-up comic,
That's totally it. Yeah.
Filling in, which is fine. That mix it up a little bit. That keeps the show interesting. It was kind of like when they messed around with it in Sci-Fi, and even their even the first couple seasons they changed the set, just little things, and throwing in the evil crow back then. They experimented a lot. They changed stuff around. It wasn't the same show week after week after week. Obviously, the movies were totally different all the time. Bad as they
never could be. Yeah, no.
So you wanted to talk about season 13 a little bit? You said.
Oh well, just predictions. It seems like they got a healthy slate. I think it's cool that they announced the movies beforehand to hype it up. Because when did they ever have the time to do that? It was never an option.
I get a kick out of their doing the Batwoman as one of them. And I get a kick out of the fact they've done a Batwoman movie already. It's obviously a different actress.
Well, that's what I really dug too.
And the TV show has already had 2 different actresses in 2 seasons playing Batwoman. So it's
totally.
So now it's the 4th Batwoman, you know?
Because like Jonah's Ator, you know, years did the first Ator, and that was a cool callback to Cave Dwellers, also known as the second Ator in Joel years. So yeah, I mean,
the fish is ready.
The fish is ready, and it was just a good way of just kind of is like, hey, we're going to do some sequels to some of these movies that we've done earlier on, and I wouldn't be surprised if again, it's like we see familiar actors who we've seen before on those movies.
Yeah. I've got to think Joel's coming back for the Gamera versus Jiger. I can't.
Yeah, because that was always. I don't think they did it on KTMA, but yeah, it's like they just never.
No, they did.
Oh, they
all
did.
The KTMA ones they did later. They haven't done that one. So that must be the odd one out.
There you go.
There's probably more. There's probably even more. Right? So is Gamera like a franchise like James Bond? You know,
essentially
in Japan? Yeah.
And it was cool to just see her
or Star Wars.
Them. That's pretty much it. And that was just a good kind of example of just showing that they didn't have to rely on just all these other well-known movies. They just but they still want to do kind of a throwback. It's like, let's just have just a few of these other ones. And
they're doing 13 for season 13. Okay. They did 14 for 10, I think. Or 11, I mean. Yeah. 14, 6, and now 13. So that's 30 movies now when they're done. Or no more than that. 33 movies they're going to have in with the new era here.
I think they're set for life. They really are, because I mean, they essentially get to again throwback to earlier stuff they've done, as well as just sum up all these moves that they've taken on all this time, and how the robots are just gonna for life be making fun of these, and everyone's like, I'm getting old, I can't handle any more of these.
They're doing one KTMA one, which of course they did that early, Comedy Central, they repeated KTMAs, but Million Eyes of Sumeru, that was KTMA. And I think Riff Tracks took that on too.
I think they did. It's just an easier to come by movie. And
yeah,
I mean, in all fairness, with Gamera, they were getting sick of doing those, so they just had to change it just for better or worse. But yeah, I mean, with this, I mean, I think you could say that they just want to make everyone happy,
Yeah, I'm getting my 3D glasses for The Mask. I'm sure it's not the Jim. I don't think it's the Jim Carrey movie.
No, the title wasn't. They could never afford that one.
No,
it would be great to have Jim Carrey guests. I know.
Yeah.
I know Bill Corbett was a fan. Mike wasn't so much a fan. So that was an interesting, just seeing how they varied on comedy.
Oh, they did do a very early Jim Carrey movie. Riff Tracks just
very recently this year. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but
I think it's going to be a healthy balance. And I think Mike has even stated is like, hey, they're doing their show, we're doing our shows, and we'll keep doing reunions together.
Oh, they're also doing a sequel to Frank's last one, Santo versus the Treasure of Dracula.
Ooh.
Which almost sounds like a remake.
Well, and those were kind of Riff Tracks did a few, and they did a few other weird Mexican horror set movies, but yeah, it was always kind of one of those cult lost films that they just never gave as much time to. So it is interesting seeing how they're doing, again, a goofy sounding versus movie featuring.
I'm assuming it's the same character as in Samson versus the Vampire Woman, which is Frank's last one.
Maybe.
I think didn't they call him Santo in that? I could be.
I think it was an El Santo movie, and they just dubbed it as Samson. Yeah.
And then the American title was Samson, and then
Anyone listening, feel free to correct us. At least we'll know you're watching. So, I mean, look at this retrospect. So, it just made sense to me that they had to form their own kind of streaming app. Because, I mean, again, all 3 channels they've been on, or 4 technically, is like they were never really appreciated. It's like KTMA,
right?
formed into a bigger station, got rid of its old stuff. Comedy Central, they acknowledged it, but they didn't, they were going to get rid of it eventually. It wasn't
and then
supposed to go.
South Park took off with Comedy Central. They kind of changed.
It really did.
They changed their agenda. Anyway.
Essentially, yeah, and it's like Comedy Central was essentially just, it was meant to just go for like a few years, and it went for like 3 years past its prime, and then Sci-Fi was just like, we just need something wacky or goofy, much like Farscape and all these other shows we're keeping alive. So yeah, it's like, and then Netflix, just shows up and does the typical, cancel instantly, after 2 years, and it's like.
Even though there was, I think at the time, wasn't it the biggest Kickstarter ever? The most profitable?
It was such a huge Kickstarter. It bypassed a bunch of other shows that had come back for Kickstarters. And I was just like, that says something. It really does. And I think...
Well, like you said, there's an audience. So it's going to be success. It should keep going as long as people want to make the show.
Well, and it helps that we've had an increase of people who, they're not crazy about today's movies, but they just want something funny before they go to bed, and so it's like they're movie buffs, and so this is fun. You're watching a movie with a bunch of other guys who are kind of your pals. And have you also, I take it you're one of many who also do the just go to sleep watching episodes?
No,
I could never do that, but I used to always watch an episode until the morning hours and then go to sleep. So
I do remember years and years I had 2 VHS machines, and I would record it and monitor it, just the picture, and play. I'd listen to the Tiger game or music or something while I was recording.
Nice.
And then I'd redub it to take the commercials out. So it was always a 90-minute show for me. You
could do your own.
I would never actually watch it when it first aired. I just
it's your own recut.
I could watch it, in 95 minutes, was fast forwarding through and then redub it without the commercials. And those VHS tapes are long gone, or I redubbed them to DVD, and now I don't even have a DVD burner anymore because you can't even buy them anymore.
Oh wow!
So I did essentially get the whole series by doing that, and I wound up buying I think I bought all of the official DVDs later.
Nice.
And even a handful of Blu-rays. I got the latest seasons on Blu-ray, so I think you got them free for being a Kickstarter backer, if I'm not mistaken.
Did too. My goodies should be coming in the mail. And
are you in the credits too? In any of the?
Yeah, I paid extra for that, and I have unfortunately not been able to see any of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I think it's still in the cloud somewhere. So
I kickstarted Dana Gould's Dr. Z show too, but I didn't go as high as his Kickstarter. Name of the credits was a little pricier than.
Well, I'm glad that he's getting some extra fanfare for being involved. It is kind of interesting. Yeah. Some of these comedians, like I know one person said, who I deeply love as a fan, good podcast and everything. They're like, they weren't sure because they were kind of getting sick of the Nerdist guys, because they were kind of like some of the G4 TV guys where they just seemed like they were kind of full of themselves. I was already a fan because he was just a hysterical, debater on the Nerdist show. But then, I followed his thing with Kumail Nanjiani's, The Meltdown, which I had a bunch of stand-up, and I know he performed with the Upright Citizens Brigade. But
I listened to the Dana Gould Hour like I used to listen to rock albums. It's always on in the car.
Was he on there?
The Dana Gould Hour.
So Jonah Ray was on the Dana Gould.
Yeah, he was. You're right.
All right. Well,
and I listened to it. I just plugged my phone in and stream it through the car, and it's great for road trips. My wife and I were just listening to it, zipping over to Lowell the other day. So
there you go. Fun. His stand-up is just still worth seeing, and I think he just keeps evolving himself, being unpredictable, even appearing in music videos. But yeah, I think some people summed it up. He's like, he didn't even play himself. He just played just a loony, outrageous, host for this show. And just Jonah Heston is just a fun, play on Charlton,
Yeah. And Dana Gould shows up on a Cinematic Titanic as a Buddy Rich takeoff, Biddy Rich or something like that. You see him in Shadow playing the drums. And also way back they do Dana Gould references. Go to bed, old man. That's straight out of his act.
Yeah.
And I actually got to meet him once, and I told him I've been a fan of yours ever since I saw that HBO special, with you're alone. You're like in a hotel room and you hear the traffic. He says, "Oh, that was showtime." Oh, I'm sorry, but he corrected me. But he liked the fact that I go back that, listen that, go back that far, And,
nice.
And Joel's on one of his podcasts too, Dana Gould Hour. He does.
I'm sure
he's on one of those.
Got to, man.
And also, Joel credits Dana Gould for inventing the term riffing. That goes back to him, yeah. So
well, seeing him do his take on...
They didn't call it riffing, but Dana Gould says, "You guys are riffing,"
Well,
so if Joel says that, it's probably true,
Oh, yeah,
and also, Gruber. Remember, Gruber would work with the
supporting robot. Yeah.
No, Cinematic Titanic. Gruber, the guy with the beard.
Oh, okay.
He was a host. He claims, and they didn't dispute him, he came up with MST3k instead of Mystery Science Theater 3000. But we're getting real trivial here, but it's interesting.
I mean, I like how everyone's got a podcast. Mike has like 2 different ones, like Trees Walking, and then 365 pages where they review books. But
I listen to that. I listen to that one. Yeah,
always fun. But I mean, I do like how J. Elvis Weinstein, released a recent stand-up and did the, he still has his new one with Andy Kindler.
Yeah.
Thought Patterns or whatever.
Yeah, they're all pretty busy. You go back to the whole history of the show. Most of
Thought Spiral. That's the
most,
one.
if not all of them, are doing stuff yet. It's really
and they've known each other for years in the era. It's just they never had an opportunity until now. So I mean,
it's because it's smart funny, which it's my favorite type of comedy. Albert Brooks is smart funny.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Klein was. I remember talking about Robert Klein. I felt like an adult for the first time listening to Robert Klein when I was a teenager. You start getting that's how adults think,
Oh yeah,
that's smart funny. Anyway.
Well, and I think it helped that everyone knew each other from somewhere. I mean, they had all worked on America's Funniest Home Videos, The Soup. So wild how Jonah wrote for The Soup, which Mystery Science Theater did a funny guest spot on in the 90s.
Yeah, then there was
I always thought, I mean, I wasn't surprised.
Freaks and Geeks.
And I wasn't surprised to see Joel McHale, appear on here. Because, I mean, Community is kind of a similar kind of humor. And, he had been on The Soup for the longest time. But I'm just waiting for some other person on here to just, like, make an appearance, like Ryan Stiles or Aisha Tyler, or,
Yeah.
some other comedian who's been here for a while, but just never got his bit,
Well, then some of the roadshow people don't even appear on the show, don't they? Have people helping them on the road. When I saw Mystery Science Theater live in Kalamazoo a couple weeks ago, they had a female crow because somebody, whoever was voicing them couldn't make the show or something, so they had a substitute female crow, which was kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Like understudy for one night, and she did a great job. So
it's good.
So. But yeah. Anyway, well, what else should we? I think we're about done here.
I think we summed
it's your call. It's your call.
What would you like to see them do in the future? Because obviously they're going to do like maybe 1 or 2 more years of this.
At least, yeah. I'll keep going. They're the Beatles of comedy. It's a quote, Dana Gould again.
Totally.
If it's done well, yeah, they just keep going. It's multi-layered stuff because 1 second you're laughing at something really dumb in the movie, or you're noticing, and then in the next minute, oh yeah, I saw that movie. Yeah, the person does look like William Shatner or whatever. It's so, and then sometimes all at once,
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on in every minute of the show, and I've actually watched it trying not to laugh, and I can't do it. I always laugh within 20 or 30 seconds. Something, it's just
takes a minute.
Yeah, and The Simpsons is like that too, and there's a few other shows. Seinfeld was a classic show, that kind of stuff. But
perfect.
But there's really no show like it.
Cool if they had some better known comedians, but I think the other problem is, they can only afford certain ones, it's like,
yeah,
like someone on SNL is going to probably ask for, more than 400 up front, for the day, so
right.
It would be cool if they got someone like Amy Poehler or Bill Hader, who I know is a fan, but yeah, it's probably be a while. They would have to just really get some great income from.
Yeah, but it keeps it down to the low budget and the charm of it too. That
oh yeah,
it's not a big shot comedian in there.
Well, that's just that too. I mean, people...
what else is Mike's done? What else has Joel done? Jonah. They have done a lot of stuff, but I mean, they're not high. They're not high profile.
No, and
I love riff tracks. I love riff tracks, and I love the Cinematic Titanic shows, and it just blends well. Now, I'm afraid to venture into like Master Pancake Theater or there's some other riffing shows out there. I've never really. Have you seen any of those?
Never had an opportunity because they're way up in places like Austin and so forth.
Yeah, it's almost. And the Firesign Theater did something similar in the 80s. There was a series where they would take silent, or they'd take old films and they'd put new dialogue in them. Totally, but they wouldn't riff on the existing dialogue. And then Woody Allen did What's Up, Tiger Lily, where I forget how that worked. It's similar to Mystery Science
Theater. Yeah, Mad Movies.
Oh,
the LA Connection.
Right. He redubbed the entire movie. That's what which is what
LA Movies with the Mad Connection. That's the one.
Yeah, and then there's one. Oh, It Came from Hollywood, which is what I think Comedy Central at one point wanted them to do, where they would just play film clips. It Came from Hollywood was a one-off movie with Cheech and Chong, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, and Gilda Radner, all kind of riffing on movies, but they were just short bursts. They were intentionally bad movies. Like Plan 9 was in there, and they would just. I don't know. Have you ever seen it?
Not that one, no. But
yeah, it's worth looking up. It's like an early demo for what became Mystery Science Theater 3000, and they took that idea but really expanded it and improved it.
Yeah, that one I have not seen, but yeah, Mad Movies I have seen clips of. And
would they show clips on that? On Mad Movies?
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Okay, I'd have to check it out. When was that out? Like in the 80s?
Yeah, late. It was before MST, so yeah, it pretty much beat them to the punch by like 2 years or something. So.
Yeah. I remember talking to people about the show early on too, and they thought I was talking about Siskel and Ebert because I was talking about two guys sitting watching.
It was around the same time, and for whatever reason, despite being inspired by that one isn't.
Yeah, well, I think Comedy Central even did blurbs about the show, funnier than Siskel or better than Ebert or something like that. They referenced, yeah. But that's not really the same thing. And they'd show the clip and then they'd talk about it. They wouldn't talk over the clip, on that show. But I used to watch that religiously too when it was on. So
someone had to watch it. It's fun stuff.
Now they're both gone, yeah. Anyway.
I know they've done, I think they released some DVD of it, but I'm not sure. I know there's a book about it, and the guy did do a recent interview, so that's, hell, I could do an episode on this damn thing. That'd be fun.
On Siskel and Ebert?
On Mad Movies with the
Mad Movies, I'm sorry, yeah. So I'm just looking at these titles one more time. Robot Wars, Beyond Atlantis. I wonder what Munchie's going to be. That sounds like a...
Yeah, it's one of the many just Gremlins type of knockoff movies.
Yeah.
Again, so there's a lot of Full Moon Entertainment, Empire Pictures ones as usual, but there's not as much Roger Corman and more just kind of lost movies. So I think that's a healthy balance.
I think The Bubble, I hope I'm not tipping this here, but I think The Bubble is one that Joel has said it's the new Manos. It's up.
Oh, dear.
And that's, if they're doing these in order, that'd be like the 12th one. Then the Christmas Dragon's the last one.
Wow.
I just took a picture when they were doing the Turkey Day Marathon. I froze the TV and just took a picture of the titles and posted on Facebook. And of course, 300 people did. So I said, you can just flip through the pictures and get a little movie, because they're all different shots. It was funny. Yeah, Gypsy's been redesigned. Gypsy's a little slimmer. And Servo and Tom look the same. And we're going to get a female host first time. That's right. Emily, who I saw in Kalamazoo. She was doing the show there. So,
nice.
Yeah. Anyway. H.G. Wells' The Shape of Things to Come, which I believe Riff Tracks took on. That'll be interesting. Dr. Mordred. That's a fun title.
Another full moon movie, yep.
Okay. Oh, you're familiar with it. Okay. You've done your research. Robot Wars, is that another one? I said
yep. It's a unofficial Robot Jock sequel, basically.
Well, we'll find out in March. Now, I don't know if you can binge watch them, or I think they're gonna do them a week at a time again.
That would make better sense.
Yeah. The problem with you binge watch, you start getting bleary-eyed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's already a 90-minute show. I'm hoping they're going back to 90 minutes because I know Netflix had them down to 80 minutes in the last season. More interference, but
didn't hurt. Could not hurt.
Yeah. And I wonder if they're going to put the TV bumpers back in, like they did in season
that's a
11.
Good question.
I like those because it was Patton would do his little quips in those. It was, it was quick. It was 20, 30 seconds. So that was kind of fun.
That'd be something.
So, all right.
Well, thank you so much for doing this episode with us.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try?
They must be destroyed on sight!
The new Podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of...
They must be destroyed on sight!
As needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, Prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little history all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How did you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our queue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-last plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy.
At eilfm.podbean.com.
We now continue with our program.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up